Hey everyone, ELD here with the most interesting judge call from this Team Trio Open that we just wrapped up. We had Pioneer, Modern, and Legacy in this one, and we had a card that people weren't super familiar with, possibly playing with it for the first time, certainly playing against it for the first time in some cases. And Rage Forger, when it enters the battlefield, puts a +1/+1 counter on each other shaman creature you control. So the error that happened here was Burning Tree Emissary and the Hierarch got +1/+1 counters, but Elvish Visionary didn't. So that is a problem. This is not a missed trigger. Some of you old school players might be thinking, whatever, my opponent's a donkey, they screwed up, it's on them. That is why I'm making the video. This is actually a really important distinction to make. In this particular case, it was all accidental. Nobody was trying to angle shoot or anything like that. But if you were the type of player to notice this and realize that your opponent didn't put the +1/+1 counter on there and not say anything, that is actually a DQable offense. That is actually cheating. So the reason for that is the missed trigger policy is the exception to the rule. Everything else has to be done correctly. Only missed triggers are allowed to be missed, even though they say on the card that you have to do it. You do not have to remind your opponent with triggers. But in this instance, the trigger wasn't missed. It was acknowledged. Counters were put out there. It just wasn't done properly. So this is more along the lines of like if somebody played an earthquake and you forgot to put a creature into the graveyard. Also of note, in that type of situation, it could happen by accident. Let's say that you forgot to put your creature into the graveyard because there was some interaction which made the creature smaller, and then it would die to state-based effects, anything like that, and then you realize it a turn or two later and you just don't say anything. That's also cheating. It's both players' responsibility to maintain the game state. I thought this was a really interesting one. Thankfully, in the situation in the actual tournament, both players just missed it. Neither player was super familiar with the card, and we actually just put the counter on there and continued from there. That was probably inaccurate on my part as well. I think I probably should have not allowed the counter to go on there. I'll be talking to some more judges about that as well. It does depend how much time has passed and how many different things had happened. That is something that I'll continue to improve on in judging these events. But the bottom line is just keep that in mind. Missed triggers, you do not have to remind your opponent, but once that trigger is resolving, it is on both players to make sure that the game state is accurate and it's carried out correctly. So that is it. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments. It seemed kind of not dramatic, but then as I started thinking about it and looking into it, it's like, wow, like this is actually an opportunity for a player to really go on the wrong side of the rules if they, for example, knew that the shaman didn't get the counter on purpose, didn't say anything to gain an advantage. That would be an absolute mess, which I'd imagine some of you out there think is absolutely no problem, but is how the rules are. I look forward to hearing your comments below.